Okay, so I'm gonna read letters written by French Kafka to Milena. So it's dated June 3, 1920. You see, Milena, I'm lying on the deck chair in the morning, naked, half in the sun, half in the shade, after an almost sleepless night. How could I have slept since I, who am too light for sleep, was constantly flying around you? And since I really was afraid, just as you wrote today about what had fallen into my lap, afraid the way they described the prophets, who were weak children, and they heard the voice calling them, and didn't want to, and they were afraid, and planted their feet on the ground and felt fear tearing through their brain. And it's true, they had already heard voices before and didn't know why this voice had such a fearful ring. Was it because their ears were weak, or was the voice so strong? Nor did they know, for after all, they were children, that the voice had already trumped and that their fear was simply its scout, sent in advance to find lodgings and appropriate them. But none of this meant they would necessarily become prophets, for although many hear the voice, it is still objectively very questionable whether they are worthy of it. And the safest course would be to categorically say they aren't. This is how I was lying there when your two letters arrived. I think there is one idiosyncrasy that we share, Melina. We are so shy and anxious that almost every letter is different. Almost everyone is frightened by the previous letter, and even more so by the reply. It's easy to see that you aren't like this by nature, and perhaps even I am not like this by nature, but this has almost become my nature, passing only when I am desperate or at most angry, and needless to say, when I am afraid. Sometimes I feel we have a room with two doors on opposite sides, and each of us is holding his doorknob, and at the bat of one person's eyelash, the other jumps behind his door. And now, if the first person utters a single word, the second is sure to close the door behind him so that he can no longer be seen. He is bound to reopen the door, though, since it may be a room impossible to leave, if only the first person went exactly like the second, then he would be calm and pretend not to care in the slightest about the second. He would slowly go about ordering this room the way he would any other. But instant, he repeats the same thing at this door. Occasionally, even both people are standing behind their doors at the same time, and the beautiful room is empty. Agonizing and misunderstandings are the result. Melina, you complain about some letters that you turn them in all directions and nothing falls out. But if I am not mistaken, those are precisely the ones where I was so close to you, my blood so restrained, restraining your own, so deep in the forest, so resting in rest, and nothing needed to be said, except perhaps that you can see the sky through the trees. That's all. And these words are repeated an hour later, and there really is not a single word which hasn't been well weighed. But this only lasts for a moment at the longest, and trumpets of sleepless nights will soon sound again. Consider too, Milena, how I have come to you, the 38-year journey I have travelled, and if at what appears to be an accidental bend in the road, I see you, whom I never expected to see, especially now, so late, then, Milena, I cannot cry out, nor does anything inside me cry out, nor will I utter 1,000 foolish words, they are not inside me, and I only realize I am kneeling because I see your feet right before my eyes and I am caressing them. And do not demand sincerity from me, Milena. No one can demand it more than I do myself. And even so, I am sure that many things escape me, maybe even everything. But cheering me on during this hunt does not cheer me up. On the contrary, it paralyzes me. Everything suddenly becomes a lie and the pursuit becomes the hunters. I am on such a dangerous road, Milena. You are standing fast by a tree, young, beautiful. Your eyes are subduing the sorrows of the world with their brightness. We are playing, schedule, best say. I'm creeping in the shade from one tree to the next. I'm halfway there. You call to me, pointing out the dangers, wanting to encourage me. You are scared by my faltering step. You remind me how serious the game is. I can't make it. I fall down already prostrate. I can't listen both to the terrible inner voices and to you simultaneously, but I can listen to what the voices are saying and confide this in you, trusting you like no other person in the world. Okay, so I'm gonna read letters written by French Kafka to Milena. So it's dated June 3, 1920. You see, Milena, I'm lying on the deck chair in the morning, naked, half in the sun, half in the shade.